My mother was an immigrant. She's from Costa Rica. So I always knew I was black. When I went to Costa Rica, when we went to Limon, that's on the other side. It's Caribbean. The culture is different. The food is different. Everything is different. So I always knew that I was black. And it, like you said earlier, it wasn't associated with anything negative. It was beautiful because Limon tiene sabor. Limon has flavor. Like, so it was something to be proud of. But sometime around middle school, we moved from Flatbush. And Flatbush is Caribbean, and it's a place where my mother felt very comfortable, and it was a place where I knew how to function. We moved to Bushwick. This is Bushwick in late 90s, early 2000s. Bushwick was still very much Puerto Rican. It was not getting gentrified. It wasn't cool. It was Bushwick. If you don't know that I speak Spanish, then you are likely to say a lot of things as you blow out my hair. And I heard many things, many comments on the color of my skin, on my weight, and I would come home and tell my mother in her righteous indignation would walk with me to the salon, and she would blurt out with this beautiful, quick Spanish that I could not emulate because I was born here, and she would tell me to defend myself, but how do you defend yourself against an entire salon that is saying that you're not beautiful, that you have pelo malo, or like, so it's interesting, right? Like, my understanding of being black within the context of Costa Rica was never negative. Coming here, being in Bushwick, to be black and to be Hispanic or to be Latino never the two shall meet. That was when I realized, oh wow, I am black. And I'm strange black because I'm a black person who speaks Spanish. I'm even stranger because my accent isn't Caribbean, it's Central American. And so I just don't fit in anywhere in this context of a Puerto Rican Dominican neighborhood. And so at that moment, I made conscious decisions to say, well, I'm just not going to be Latina anymore. I am going to just stick to the Afro-Caribbean side because it made sense. My last name is English. Like, this just makes sense. And so that became the conscious decision for me to identify solely as West Indian, even though my roots are in Central America. Right? So it just became, a whole section of my identity was cut off for the next decade.
I'm Julian Albizu, and I am a filmmaker from Brooklyn. I am a daughter and granddaughter, and I grew up on Long Island. On Long Island, I grew up in a Dominican household until someone called me black. I started to figure out what that meant. The black students embraced me as their own, and I started to listen to hip-hop. I coined the term Nubian Latina to embrace my blackness. My parents didn't like the idea of me calling myself black.
My daughter is black. Is that what you want me to say? Blacks in American means that they will discriminate against her.
No, I don't think my daughter is black, and it's not because of the color of your skin. If you're saying black African American, we're talking about a African American culture. If you're saying black Latina, that's a different Latino culture. So to me, yes, you're black Latina, but no, you're not black African American.
The term negrita, to me, there are two meanings. First, it depends on who's saying it. I understand it to be a term of endearment. So negrita can be something like saying, you know, my black girl, my love.
It's often used in kind of a way, oh no, it's just friendly, but you also hear it in kind of negative terms, like who the negrita over there?
It was a lot of actually Spanish people talking, and they thought I was actually black, so it was like what that black girl right there thinks she is, or negrita, la negra esa, that's how they would say. Then when I actually turned around, she's like, oh, you Spanish, I'm so sorry, I wasn't even talking about you, but I'm actually the only one that was standing there.
Certain comments like, oh, you know, date a lighter person so your kids come out like this, certain things like that I have heard.
Sometimes I would just hide my identity and I wouldn't tell anyone that I was Latina because I just didn't want to be identified or associated with that or trying to prove my ethnicity.
I feel like we are Africans in Caribbean, Latin America. And this is another way of, you know, branding ourselves to the world, saying that, well, I'm black, but I can see Spanish.
My nose was too big, my skin is too dark, why is your hair like that? Are you sure you're Dominican? All kinds of things
You know, I began understanding more about Blackness and the importance of knowing that I am Afro-Dominican and Afro-Latina when I came to the U.S.
Now imagine you have no history, zero. No Frederick Douglass, no Harriet Tubman, no Sojourner Truth, nothing. That is what the state of Black history in Latin America is.